Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, for the record, in terms of rebuttal, a couple of things I would like to address. First is this new information that was just received. I would, for the record, indicate that I received these test results at 7:53 this morning. As I understand it, Dr. Fowler is on an airplane and having some difficulty reaching him at this particular moment. I have spoken with other people from the forensics panel. They're looking into these things. Nevertheless, Your Honor, the point of this is that this issue was specifically raised, as the court points out, back on February 22nd, some 20-some-odd days, or 40-some, 60 days. I don't even know how long it's been. I'm a little time deprived at this point. The point being is that the state has had more than sufficient notice. Dr. Fowler is opining that this could have played a role in his report. He says and suggests that for completeness, it should have been tested or should be tested. The state retained and continues to retain any blood samples. They are not within the control of the defense. The state has had ample opportunity to rebut any suggestion. As far as the information relevant to that Mr. Blackwell references in terms of the oxygen levels, the 98% oxygen levels, what Dr. Fowler testified to yesterday was how you can't rely on the oxygen levels because it's the carbon monoxide binds to the oxygen and it can give a false reading. You need this hypoxy testing, the hypoxy oxygen testing. So the bottom line is that this is information that has been within the state's control. The state has had ample notice that this could have played a part of Dr. Fowler's testimony. It is incredibly prejudicial to the defense at this point, now after Dr. Fowler has testified and left the state, to bring forth evidence. Again, the jury being the trier of the fact, Dr. Fowler was pretty clear. He was not saying that this was the cause of death. He's simply opining that it wasn't considered by the state. And apparently it was considered to be a ridiculous concept by the state of Minnesota that they didn't think to test it. Since this trial has started, in addition to this new evidence, the state has had multiple conversations with a city employee about the vehicle itself. They've gone and taken pictures of the vehicle. Again, all of this they've had ample opportunity to do, but this is what they're doing in the middle of trial, even though they've known for a long time that this was an issue. I did receive also last evening a summary of Dr. Tobin's anticipated rebuttal points that 3 of the 4 points I do not see as proper rebuttal, but we can address that later.
Well, let's address that now, as long as I'll ask the state to respond to something other than your carbon monoxide issue.
Yep. So last night I received a one-page memorandum referencing a conference that they had with Dr. Tobin. It's date stamp 50417. They identify 4 areas of potential rebuttal. The first being that Dr. Tobin will testify regarding the significance of the hypoxic changes from a physiology and clinical standpoint, including his conclusion that the anoxic seizure is not indicative of a primary cardiac event based on the timeline of significant events. I believe that Dr. Tobin has already extensively testified as to his opinion of the significance of the anoxic seizure. I mean, that formed a large basis of his testimony and how he concluded that. Now, the fact that there is a differing opinion that it's a cardiac event instead of a hypoxic event that's the nature. Again, state has had ample notice. It's not rebutting. It's just simply reintroducing what Dr. Tobin has already testified to extensively.
Well, my recollection of Dr. Fowler's testimony is that he agreed that it's a hypoxic reaction. But it's just the mechanism. I think we're talking about the mechanism. Was it due to positional asphyxia versus
Correct.
versus cardiac arrhythmia? But I think they all agreed that it was a myoclonic seizure as a reaction to hypoxia.
Agreed, Your Honor, but the mechanism being the point of what Dr. Tobin has already extensively testified to.
Right.
And the fact that Dr. Fowler had a different opinion, this is not proper rebuttal because it's already been testified to at length. What the mechanism of the seizure was has already been opined by Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
The second area that Dr. Tobin has indicated is he said Dr. Tobin will testify regarding the scientific research supportive of his analysis that showed how the hypopharynx can be narrowed. Again, I believe that he has already extensively testified to his position as to the narrowing of the hypopharynx. Whatever this additional research is, I have been provided with a single journal article relevant to the treatment of COVID patients that was provided to me last night as well. If it's limited to that single article, I guess that could be construed to be additional evidence. But again, Dr. Tobin extensively testified as to his view of the narrowing of the hypopharynx. The third area is what is written as follows. Dr. Tobin has reviewed and will testify as to his analysis of the two studies of that Dr. Fowler cited regarding outdoor exposure to carbon monoxide. Dr. Fowler testified that Mr. Floyd could have had a level of 10 to 18% carboxyhemoglobin as reflected in the slides disclosed on 413, and that in his opinion this level could have contributed to Mr. Floyd's cardiac-induced death. Dr. Tobin will rebut this analysis and provide his opinion that based on lab tests done at the emergency department, Dr. Fowler's analysis does not hold. So this email being sent at 4:53 p.m. last night, or approximately 5 o'clock last night, suggests that Dr. Tobin may have seen these test results, or the test results done at the emergency. There's no indication, is it these new test results or is it some other test result? Nevertheless, it's our position that these new test results should not go in front of the jury, first and foremost. And second, if they were, I would be moving for a mistrial based on this, because again, the state has had ample notice. Finally, Your Honor, the fourth paragraph reads, in his report regarding the size of Mr. Floyd's heart, Dr. Fowler cited two studies, the Molina and DeMaio study and the Northwestern study from 2021. However, Dr. Fowler did not cite the Mayo study that he referenced in direct examination, and he did not offer the opinion that Mr. Floyd had an enlarged heart. Dr. Tobin will clarify the facts underlying these studies and their application to Mr. Floyd. Again, this is the very nature of our system, right? There's an opinion and there's a counter opinion that we both, Dr. Tobin has already cited this study. He has talked about this study. He acknowledged the existence of the other studies. So this is not proper rebuttal because it's already been testified to. They're trying to recreate and get Dr. Tobin in front of the jury again to talk about things he's already talked about. The CO2, fair enough, right? To some limited extent based upon, Dr. Fowler's testimony.
Mr. Blackwell, let's talk about those other, aside from the lab tests, those 4 points that the state is seeking to present rebuttal.
Obviously, Your Honor, we wouldn't be having any of these discussions this morning had there not been new opinions from Dr. Fowler raised from the stand. And one of those new opinions, and one which I think I was objecting to at the time, was his discussion of the Mayo study. This had to do with the whole issue of the enlarged heart, the cardiomegaly. And he had disclosed to us his reliance on Molina and DeMeo, and also the Northwestern study that was in his report. And as Your Honor well knows, the whole point of having reports and disclosures for both sides is so that both sides have notice for what's going to be testified to on the stand. So he testified about the Mayo study anyway. He expressed his opinions about the Mayo study. It was a free kick at the goal because we didn't know that he was going there.
And what study again? Could you spell that one? Because I'm mixing up DeMaio and...
Yeah, the Mayo study is M-A-Y-O. It's as though it should be pronounced Mayo.
Okay.
And what Dr. Chauvin would talk about would be that particular study and the fact that in the opinions that Dr. Fowler had presented in his report, he didn't offer the opinion that Mr. Floyd had an enlarged heart. He offered it from the stand. He didn't offer it in his report. And had we known at the time from the disclosures that that's what he was going to testify to, then we would have addressed it during his testimony, during his direct, when he was here before.
Well, let me ask you. So, what specifically do you want Dr. Chauvin to testify to regarding an enlarged heart?
He will simply testify that if you then look at the overall studies, including the Mayo study that we've been talking about, that Mr. Floyd's heart weight does not fall within a range that is abnormal. So he'll talk about the broader sort of pool of studies in the framework of discussing the Mayo study that we had learned about, at least that Dr. Fowler was going to rely on in his testimony.
I guess one question I have is, he's the pulmonologist, he's not the cardiologist. Are you recalling your cardiologist to talk about the enlarged heart and give an opinion about an enlarged heart?
No, Your Honor, just the pulmonologist.
Okay.
And obviously there's a cardiopulmonary system, and they both kind of operate kind of hand in glove. So we felt, frankly, in the interest and respect in Your Honor's admonition, that we try to be focused substantively and temporally to simply call one person to talk about this and not multiple ones.
All right. Okay. What about the other?
On the issue of the hypoxia, for the first time from the stand, we heard from Dr. Fowler that an anoxic seizure was evidence of a primary cardiac event. Your Honor is right in what Your Honor had understood, that both sides do understand kind of what happens when you have an hypoxia event and how one passes away. What we had not heard was Dr. Fowler attributing it to a primary cardiac event. That was not in this report, and it was disclosed for the first time from the stand. And as well as relates to the hypopharynx, that was crystal clear from the stand that Dr. Fowler said, having heard Dr. Tobin testify, I went out to canvass the literature and I found nothing there supportive of his theories for somebody who has studied the science of breathing for 46 years. So what Dr. Fowler would testify there is what is the nature of the research in that respect, in direct response to the new statement from Dr. Fowler from the stand.
Let's talk about the opinion regarding the carbon monoxide effect and Dr. Tobin's opinion, which would appear to be within the scope of his expertise as a pulmonologist. But is it going to be solely talking about the lab tests?
It is solely talking about the carbon monoxide content of his blood, Your Honor, and I don't want to try to answer the court's question as clearly as I can.
No, go ahead.
It isn't just talking about the test results. The test results are subsumed in it, but the bottom line of what he's talking about is what is the evidence as to whether or not the carboxyhemoglobin content, the carbon monoxide content of his blood could have been in the range of up to 15%. And he's saying that based upon the medical evidence available, that was available to everybody, looking purely at the oxygen.
What was available to everybody?
The oxygen saturation content of his blood.
Okay.
And and contrary to counsel's comment on the science, the way that the oxygen saturation works, we have hemoglobin, so either the oxygen is going to combine with the hemoglobin or carbon monoxide will. And if carbon monoxide has bound to it, then you can't have an oxygen saturation of 98%.
I understood the testimony.
So that is what he would speak to. The test results are merely corroborative of that, because the test results show a specific testing for carbon monoxide itself, and it isn't simply derived from looking at the oxygen saturation content, which is at 98%, and therefore the most carbon monoxide could have been is 2%. So it is addressing the same issue from the two different perspectives: oxygen saturation versus actual testing in the test results of the carbon monoxide itself.
Well, I agree with you that if the tests had been disclosed earlier before Dr. Fowler testified, there'd be no problem with putting that in his rebuttal. Probably there would have been no need, because Dr. Fowler would have been advised of the results and testified accordingly. So there would have been no need for rebuttal. So, but other than that, so are those the four topics, though? Did counsel set those out pretty clearly?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right. First of all, in dealing with these lab test results, I find that Dr. Fowler's report gave sufficient notice to the state that the carbon monoxide that potentially was in George Floyd's blood could have affected cause of death. I read page 15 of his report, which I don't have at my fingertips at this point, that basically they said Dr. Fowler came right out and said it should be tested. That gave the state notice with sufficient time in February to either test the samples that are still there or to dig a little deeper. It's just by serendipity that Dr. Baker calls the state and says, oh, by the way, it does exist. It should be in there. It seems to me very odd. I'm not claiming any bad faith on the state's part, but it seems odd that Hennepin County Medical Center, when they're asked to turn over all their records, that they don't include records that maybe are just buried a little deeper. I think their response to the subpoena was probably insufficient in and of itself. And they should check their standard operating procedures so that in the event this happens again, that they will supply all the information they have. But in any case, the defense gave notice that this was going to be an issue and specifically talked about testing the sample. The state had sufficient time to investigate and disclose, to, even if it's just because Dr. Baker called the state and said, we can actually find this, at 8 o'clock this morning, when the state is, or the defense expert is done testifying, has left the state. It's untimely to give the notice, and it prejudiced the defense by the late disclosure, even if it's not due to bad faith. But the late disclosure has prejudiced the defense. It's not going to be allowed. So Dr. Tobin will not be allowed to testify as to those lab results. If there's anything he wished to add about carbon monoxide as far as environmental factors, but if he even hints that there are test results that the jury has not heard about, it's going to be a mistrial. Pure and simple. This late disclosure is not the way we should be operating here. In that case, Dr. Tobin may testify as to carbon monoxide if he sticks to the environmental factors, and as a pulmonologist, looking at the videos, for example, and seeing Mr. Floyd's location and not knowing whether the vehicle is even on or not, which the state brought out in cross-examination. All those factors he can talk about environmentally and what the likelihood is that it would affect his carbon monoxide concentration in Mr. Floyd's blood, that's fine. But nothing about these lab test results that were just disclosed 8 a.m. this morning after the defense expert is done. With regard to the DeMaio, I will allow, I have a little concern that we're having a pulmonologist opine whether it's an enlarged heart or not. But given his background, which, as I think Mr. Blackwell appropriately stated, is a cardiopulmonary system, it is a system, and I think he has some expertise in the function of the heart and its relation to the lungs. And so I think it is appropriate that he be allowed to opine whether or not the heart was enlarged or not, based on those studies, and specifically responding to those studies. As far as the scientific research, the defense did bring up as a new issue whether or not narrowing of the hypopharynx is supported in literature, and Dr. Fowler said he did a check and he didn't find anything. I think it is permissible that Dr. Chauvin be allowed to come and say, since then, since Dr. Fowler's testimony, he has done his own search, or he relied on this, and there is literature, and he can talk about the literature in a summary fashion. With regard to the hypoxic seizure, it was pretty clear from Dr. Tobin's testimony that he had an opinion that there were movements of George Floyd's legs, that those were myoclonic or anoxic seizures due to the lack of oxygen. Dr. Fowler did not really dispute that. He also indicated that it was a lack of oxygen to the brain that causes such seizures. The only difference between the two was the mechanism. Did the lack of oxygen, was that caused by positional asphyxia versus cardiac arrhythmia? And as I recall, Dr. Tobin excluded cardiac arrhythmia or a cardiac event as the cause of the lack of oxygen. Since he has excluded a cardiac event as the cause of the lack of oxygen, that evidence is already in the record. I don't have to remind both sides that the purpose of rebuttal evidence is not to restate what has already been testified to. It's to bring up new evidence to rebut something that came up in the other side's case. Accordingly, as to the hypoxic seizure, that's not going to be allowed. The scientific research supporting hypopharynx narrowing will be allowed. The lab tests are not allowed to be discussed, but Dr. Tobin can talk about carbon monoxide and the likelihood of a high carbon monoxide reading based on environmental factors if he wishes, because that was gone into a great extent. And finally, the reports, and he may opine whether, in his opinion, George Floyd's heart was enlarged or not. Do we have pretty much the ground rules set?
Just one question for clarification on the carbon monoxide. There were test results that existed before the ones that are at issue from last night / this morning. What Dr. Tobin, these are the ones that relate to the oxygen saturation. So that was known before last night. And so I haven't talked to Dr. Tobin this morning about what he's going to say or when. I might ask the court for a few minutes before we start. But what he was able to come to last night without saying anything at all related to these test results at issue was we had the results already, both sides do, on the oxygen saturation in his blood from May 25th, 2020.
Well, let me ask you this. Is his opinion going to be that when the oxygen saturation levels are this high, that precludes high CO, because a high carbon monoxide reading would depress the saturated oxygen?
That's correct. They are would be inversely related. So a high oxygen saturation
would indicate a low carbon monoxide.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
As I understood Dr. Fowler's testimony, at lower levels of carbon monoxide, because the pulse oximeter does not, it's not going to differentiate based on the color of the blood between oxygen and carbon monoxide.
This is the bright cherry red testimony.
Correct.
I think that's appropriate cross, but I think if that is in fact Dr. Tobin's opinion that these oxygen saturation readings, which have been disclosed earlier, would indicate a low carbon monoxide reading because they are inversely proportional, and it's appropriate, however, to say those readings are based on pulse ox, color of the blood, color of the fingernail, and the bright cherry red, essentially confronting him with that testimony, I think is appropriate cross, but it does not preclude the state from recalling Dr. Tobin for that purpose.
Yep, that's the clarification, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be permitted. All right, anything else before? And you want a few minutes to talk to Dr. Tobin?
If I may, Your Honor.
Why don't we start up at 10 o'clock? I assume he's close by. You could do it quickly, Mr. Blackwell.
I was hoping for a few more minutes.
I think since the defense is going to rest and you'll proceed directly to Dr. Tobin, are we calling anybody else?
No one else, Your Honor, and if we could have to 10:15.
10:15 it is. All right, 10:15 we'll reconvene. Thank you.
What is up, everyone? Please take a second to hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come hang out with us and see what's going on. So hit that like button. How is everyone's morning going? Oh, 3D gun. Yeah, I believe today is the last day of the trial. Tired bit, Mammoth? Were you with us last night watching the protests? Did you guys see that Derek Chauvin waived his rights to testify this morning? I mean, I'm sure they planned on it happening, but this morning they actually did it on the record. Yeah, that's right, Newton. It's Jeff Mack After Dark, protesting all night. Hey, what's up, Tony's Place? Yeah, Sheepdog Pleb. It is definitely riot season. They've been protesting in Portland from different clips and articles I've been seeing. They just haven't been live streaming it. So I'm waiting for either live streamers to become brave and go there and live stream what's happening, or for them to change their tactics and go back to live streaming. But we will be covering that as soon as we can get our hands on the feed. D. Thomas, I don't really have a prediction on how this is going. I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm just waiting to see what happens, like all of you. All right, let's do some shout outs. Thank you so much, Fiona, RV, Sarah, and Donna, for your donations and your support. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you so much, Drew, Cynthia, and Dat Visionary for joining the membership program. And welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. Why are people saying shout me out? I don't what is that? Did Mercado get a strike yesterday, or Mercado? I know who you're talking about. I don't know if they got a strike. I don't pull their live stream because they're just, I don't know. I used to, back like when the Kyle thing happened, I used to pull from their live stream, but I don't know. They do a lot of crying and stuff, and it makes people leave, and I don't like to hear it. So I'm not sure what happened to his live feed. What's up, Joe Inc? What's up, Jay Busy? What's up, Ty? Who do we have in the chat this morning? You guys are killing me. Could you imagine like walking down the street and you see someone, right? And you guys make eye contact and you just scream out, "Shout me out! Shout me out!" Instead of being like, "Hi, hello, what's up, good morning." And you're just like, "Hey, shout me out! Shout me out!" Like, reminds me of like how they perceive dogs or portray dogs. Where it's like squirrel. So it reminds me of. John, stop spamming my chat before you get banned. Yeah, I think it would be difficult to be a part of the jury watching this, especially because there's so much of the same information being talked about over and over and over again. It would be difficult to try and make an accurate decision, especially with the pressure of, you know, the whole city rioting every night and stuff. There's no way that doesn't influence the jury. Yeah, I mean, no matter what, the outcome I feel is gonna be the same. There's gonna be rioting and protesting no matter what. What's up, NPC drones? Hydrodynamics, are you pulling me to the side for a sidebar? Yeah, I don't think the outcome is gonna really make a difference. I mean, when this trial started, people figured if he was found guilty, they would riot. If he was found guilty of lesser charges, they would riot. And if they let him walk, or they called him mistrial or anything like that, definitely could be rioting. But we didn't even get to the end of the trial, and now an officer has shot someone else. So like, this almost is irrelevant to rioting at this point. This is almost just icing on the cake. They've already got another reason to riot and stuff. So I don't feel like this has as much of an impact as we originally thought it was going to have, as far as like riots happening across the country again. It's basically just riot season. You know, it's already starting back up. What's up, Lone Wolf? Did anyone figure out anything about Black Zebra and why they passed out the other day? What's up, Grinch Mode? I don't think Black Zebra got knocked out. I don't know what happened to her. I didn't expect all of that, though. I didn't expect her to just drop down to the ground or whatever happened to her. Autumn Day. Yeah, I can imagine to be a juror. I see, well, like there's almost 600 people in the chat. We can watch something happen on the screen, and I will watch almost all of you have a different opinion. So I couldn't imagine having a group of people watching a trial, and then you get in the back room to come up with a decision. It's hard to figure out what 4 people will want to eat in a day, like let alone try and get 12, 13 people to agree on whether or not someone's guilty. I couldn't imagine. That sounds like a headache. Shink, I don't think Unicorn Riot got his camera broke unless he has more than one camera. Because we watched his stream yesterday until he cut it off, just because there was nothing else going on. Hey, thank you so much, Sheepdog Pleb, for your donation and your support. I will look into that. I'm not sure why you got timed out. I didn't time you out. Must have been a mod. I'll look into it. Thank you so much, News from Leo, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. Sonar, I've seen all the video footage. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know how to go about it. I seen how how Dante carried himself and the way he portrayed himself on social media. I also seen the video on what happened to him, but I don't know. I don't think it makes it justified. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about it. We just cover it. What's up, LaDonna? What's up, Mama 4 Kids? Hey, thank you so much, Sheepdog. I don't know. I'm gonna probably look into seeing if I can figure out any information about what happened to Black Zebra once they get back from trial. Hey, what's up, Michelle? Aunt B, Black Zebra is they are a like pro BLM live streamer. We were watching their live 2 days ago, and at the very end of the live they were all sitting around talking, and then our camera person dropped the phone, and I thought she had dropped the phone, but then all of her friends that were sitting around her were like panicking, trying to figure out how to wake her up. Should they put water on her? Like, does she need to go to the hospital? So apparently she fainted or passed out, and one of her friends or whatever picked up the phone and cut the live feed. So we don't know what happened to her. That was how we ended the night, actually. Hey, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate the donation and all the support. Thank you for being here. Sheepdog Pleb, that's probably why you got timed out. You guys don't say jogging, don't talk about joggers and stuff like that. That is a racist term. Do not say that stuff. Sheepdog Pleb, you're one of the few that got a verbal warning. Normally if you say jogger or anything, it's an auto ban. That is a racist term. Hey, what's up, Todd? I don't know if I got good rest. I got some rest. But it's not a big deal. The trial won't go on forever. Pretty soon we'll just be covering protests, 12, 14 hours a day. I'm sure that's not too far away. Wow, I'm really surprised that of all of you on the screen saying that. Look it up. Look up jogger racist term. Just Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's lots of little phrases like that don't seem like a big deal, but when I first started live streaming, there was a lot of people using phrases like that I let slide for a long time. But then I would see neutral people or people that were pro BLM, and they would show up and get pissed off for that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's racist. That guy, you want to unsubscribe because you think I'm commanding language? You're banned, you little sissy, and your Sandy hoo-ha. I don't care. You ain't gonna be racist in my house. I don't care how you feel about it. Thank you so much, Lone Wolf and Abby, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially hooligans. Hey, thank you so much, Taylor, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. You guys are all gonna get kicked out of here trying to trip on me over that stupid stuff. The whole jogger thing refers to a specific incident that happened where people had like shot some black dude for no apparent reason, as if it was something to do. So when you refer to someone as a jogger, you are putting it in the perspective as if you wish that person would be randomly shot for no reason. That's what it means when you're saying that. It is used as a hateful phrase. It has nothing to do with cancel culture. It doesn't have nothing to do with me being soft or any stuff like that. It is used as a racist term, and that's all there is to it. If you don't like it, you can kick rocks. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried at all.
All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan.
Defense Russ.
Thank you. Mr. Blackwell, does the state have rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Your Honor, counsel, ladies and gentlemen. The state will recall to the stand Dr. Martin Tobin. In just one moment, Your Honor.
Not a problem. Dr. Tobin, since we are recalling you, I'm going to swear you in again. Yep. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
See it again?
If the audio starts getting out of sync like it did yesterday, I'm going to pull up a different feed just in case we have to switch.
And just for the record, if you could restate your name and if you feel comfortable, take the mask off.
My name is Martin Tobin.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Tobin.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you for rejoining us. Got just a few follow-up questions to ask you in rebuttal. But first, just so you're introduced to the jury, you're a pulmonologist.
Correct. Lung specialist. Yeah.
A critical care physician.
Yeah, intensive care doctor.
And you've studied the physiology of breathing for 46 years.
Correct. Yeah.
I want to first ask you about the issue of Mr. Floyd's potential exposure to carbon monoxide.
Yes.
Were you able to hear testimony regarding this yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to see this particular slide and the highlighted statement at the bottom? In 7 minutes, Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%.
Correct. Yeah, I saw that.
Would you first just tell us right off the bat, do you agree with that proposition that's highlighted there?
No, I do not.
Now, would you tell us what carboxyhemoglobin is?
Yeah. Carboxyhemoglobin is when the carbon monoxide combines with the protein in a blood that's called the hemoglobin. And so it's the combination of the carbon monoxide and that protein in the blood.
And why is carboxyhemoglobin, again, important?
It's important because when the carbon monoxide binds to the hemoglobin, it displaces the oxygen off the hemoglobin. So you need the oxygen on the hemoglobin. You don't want the carboxy, and it takes it over.
Then do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether this statement that Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18% is reliable?
No, I believe it is not reliable.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen why that statement is not reliable?
I base it on the arterial blood gas that was obtained when Mr. Floyd was in Hennepin County.
Please sidebar.
Hey, thank you so much, Katie, for your donation and your support. I appreciate you. Well, we didn't make it very far before they did a sidebar. I'm looking into what happened to Black Zebra to see if I can figure anything out. I have another live stream pulled up just in case this gets out of sync or has any weird issues like we had happen yesterday. When I see the judge do that, like put his hand up over his face. My grandma used to be really dramatic, and I remember going out to eat for breakfast with her and stuff, and I would say things or, you know, talk to the waitress or whatever a certain kind of way, and she would just sit there with her hand over her face like that, like she's totally ashamed to be out in public with me. She was always doing it jokingly, but that's why I think when I see that, it's like he's just ashamed of what's going on.
I think the objection should be sustained, but just rephrase the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Tobin, as you prepare to tell us why these results, in your opinion, are not reliable, could you please help the jury to understand something about oxygen saturation testing in the blood?
Right. So if you have, like was done in Mr. Floyd when he went to Hennepin County, he had an arterial blood gas obtained. So that's sticking a needle into the artery at the wrist, and you take out the blood. And then on the blood gas measurements, you measure a number of different items on that, like the pressure of oxygen in the blood, the pressure of carbon dioxide, the amount of acid in the blood called the pH, and you get all these different measurements, and you also get the oxygen saturation, and that is the how much of the hemoglobin, the protein in the blood that carries the oxygen, how much of that hemoglobin is saturated with oxygen. And we know in Mr. Floyd that it was 98% saturated.
So 98% saturated with oxygen?
With oxygen when they measured it in Hennepin County. And
So
that was 9/16, the time frame.
So if we know that there's an oxygen saturation of 98%, does that tell us anything whatsoever?
Yes,
about what?
I'm sorry, I interrupt. I apologize.
Does that tell us anything whatsoever about what the carbon monoxide content could have been at a maximum in?
Yes, it does. It tells us that if the hemoglobin is saturated at 98%, it tells you all there was for everything else is 2%. And so the maximum amount of carbon monoxide would be 2%. It tells you the maximum amount of carboxyhemoglobin. That was what was mentioned yesterday. The maximum amount is 2%. It doesn't even tell you that it is 2%. It could be something else. But 2% of carboxyhemoglobin is within the normal range. You and I have levels of carboxyhemoglobin of somewhere between 0 and 3.
And so in other words, as to the statement that his carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%, in your view, that's not possible.
It's simply wrong.
And it was at most 2%.
At most 2%.
Normal.
Which is normal.
New subject to discuss with you. You might recall, if you were listening to the testimony, my discussing with Dr. Fowler the hypopharynx.
Yes, I remember.
And you might recall I spent some time asking him about what research he had done on the potential for pressure on the back to narrow the hypopharynx.
Yeah, I recall that.
Do you recall him saying he had canvassed the literature and he could not find anything?
I'm sorry.
Do you recall him saying he had reviewed the research and that he could not find anything?
Yes, I recall him saying that.
Are you able to enlighten or give any information to the jury on the nature of the research on the hypopharynx and how it narrows with compression in the prone position?
Yeah. So, I mean, the research on this, which is extensive, is really in the scientific literature. It's in the physiological literature. And then that is applied over to clinical medicine. So the type of studies that are done are not really done in terms of ordinary clinical research. It's much more physiological, much more scientific of how the body works. And there's about probably at least a dozen, maybe 20 studies that show the relationship between how that if you lower the size of the lungs, you must get a decrease in the size of the hypopharynx. All of the studies show that.
And then are there studies then that look at whether the pressure on the neck narrows the hypopharynx?
No. I mean, because when we do research, we try and do research on studies that might be puzzling, that you would be kind of expecting a bit of a surprise. If you think about sticking your fingers into your neck, you know you're going to narrow the hypopharynx. That's not kind of research that somebody is going to want to do. It's so common sense that you would know that that's going to happen. I mean, you can do it on yourself if you want. And as soon as you put pressure here, you can immediately sense that your upper airway is narrowing.
Dr. Tobin, that is all we wanted to clarify with you this morning.
Okay.
Any comments? If I may have 2 minutes.
Sure. Let's do a stretch break in place.
What'd they do? Call a sidebar? A stretch break? Didn't they just go on a 15-minute break? What was it for? I can't remember what it was for. I swear they were just on break. What's up, Deputy Dog? And what's up, poppin' plugs? Thanks for being here, DJ Kutak. What's up, Renee? Hey, thank you so much, Ghostface Vanilla, for joining, for your donation and all your support. I appreciate you, especially watching at work. I can't believe how many of you tune in while you're at work. I appreciate you guys. Good morning, Loki.
We're going to actually have a recess now until 1:45, so we'll reconvene at that time.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to shut down this live. I don't want to sit here and ramble on for 45 minutes. I'm not quite that entertaining. Jeez, I was not expecting that. Big Wheels, Michigan is kind of shut down. We're at like 50% or something. I don't know what it is right now. They gave us a voluntary shutdown. You're welcome to self-quarantine and all that stuff if you choose to do so. That's what's going on right now in Michigan. Yeah, so I guess we're going to shut this down until they come back at 1:15. There's no reason for me to sit here and ramble on for 45 minutes. We haven't done enough today to really have 45 minutes worth of something to talk about. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate all you showing up. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you. You guys are what's keeping the channel going, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much. If you're new here, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join the Discord. The Discord is a free app that you download on your phone. You come to my live, even if we're not live. Go down in the description, find the link for the Discord. You'll be greeted with an automated message. 10 minutes. He's coming back in 10 minutes? I thought he said they were done till 15 after. Oh, they're coming back at 1:45? Let me see. Hold on. I want to make sure because I thought they weren't coming back till 15 after. Oh, he said 15:02. Okay. Good. We can hang out for that. We're not going to sit here for 45 minutes. I was going to say. Thank you so much, Esther, for your donation and your support. I really appreciate you. Well, awesome. 1:45 is manageable. We can do that. Well, let's turn some beats on just a second. What's up, Gang of Four? Yeah, it's definitely coffee time. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to go grab a cup of coffee when they decided to do whatever they did. All right. Thanks, Pawpaw. Morning, Angela. All right, I'm gonna grab a coffee. It's only gonna take a couple seconds. No misbehaving. I'll be right back. We're being shadow banned, Rob. I don't know. We don't look shadow banned on my end. I see 200 people left, but that's expected. There isn't anything going on. I know, Grinch mode. I seen you hooligans. Just couldn't wait to start misbehaving. Start getting out of line. I see it. Yeah, I appreciate you, Dogside. Yeah, if you guys are trying to get my attention and I'm not responding to you, you gotta tag my name. It's not always a slow chat, and I'm running like 9 different screens right now. So if you don't, like, when you tag my name, it lights up in orange. If you don't tag my name, a lot of times I don't even know that you're talking to me. Hey, I appreciate you being here, MT Coiner. Gold-blooded, you're at work too. There's a lot of people that stop in mentioning that they're either on break or they're currently at work. kind of misbehaving, not working like they're supposed to, but I still appreciate you viewers. You guys are awesome. Good morning, Jeff and Shay. What's up, Jesse? What's up, Jeff's Cars? Grinch mode, I think you can either hashtag or @ and then write their name out, and it should tag them. If you're on a computer, it'll actually suggest usernames. So you only got to type in like 2 letters or whatever, and it'll pop the name up, and you can choose from the list. If you're on a phone, at least an Android anyways, you have to type the whole name out. You got to type it correctly, or else it won't tag the name. Hey, thank you so much, Mark, for your donation and your support. I really appreciate you. Yeah, this court takes a lot of breaks. I mean, it's, well, I guess there it's almost 11 o'clock. So like in 2 hours, we'll be going to lunch. Gang of 4, it sounds like you live in Michigan. That's how it is here. Today I'm working on a tan. Tomorrow we're supposed to have snow. Yep. Hey, what's up, Aaron? Yeah, Sonar Whiskers. Well, that's why basically I do what I do, is so all of us can get together, we can discuss what's going on, we can raise different opinions and sides of a story that maybe not everyone's heard, but we get to watch everything live as it's happening. If you read articles, you watch clips of video, or you listen to hearsay, there's a high possibility that what the information you're taking in is incorrect in some sort of manner. It is inaccurate. And so that's why I like to watch everything live. And that's also why I'm always telling all of you, I'm not trying to tell you what to say, what to think, what to feel. We're all just watching this together. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, just like you guys don't know what's going to happen. And that's the best way to take in information, is to basically, this is as close as we can get to actually being there in person. And it's the best way to receive accurate information. So yeah, like with what happened to Dante Wright, I don't know. I know some people feel like he was a bad guy and he got what he deserved. I know other people feel like he was a victim and he shouldn't have been that way, like kind of like he's a little kid or something, like he didn't see it coming. I don't know. It's a sensitive situation. All I know is that we can watch what happens from here live to stay up to date with the information that's coming out about that. But as far as like other like mainstream news and stuff like that, they're always going to twist it and bend it because they're pushing their agenda, and they get paid by, people who got a lot of money and a narrative to have pushed out. So yeah, that's why we're kind of the force fighting against that. I don't have no reason to twist anyone's arm to make them believe this, that, or the other. I just watch the live every day. That's the only way I'm informed, is watching it every day. And all of you that are here with me every day, you're just as informed. So yeah, it is unfortunate that news networks, bloggers and all that stuff, they're always twisting the information, even if they're not trying to. It's their perception. Like if I tell you what happened, like last night, like if I was to explain to you how last night's protest went, I may have perceived it differently than any of you have. And so for me to tell you to some degree is going to be inaccurate, because I'm telling you from my perspective, from the way that I digested the information is how I'm going to explain it. Word choice, enunciation, emphasis, all of this affects how the story is told. So even if we're watching news or reading articles, even if the intentions are not to twist the story or manipulate you in some way, it is still happening because of perspective. So yeah, that's why, like, I always think it's crazy when people get all mad at me and stuff. I mean, I understand it for certain things that I say, or if I'm joking around and maybe it's a serious situation, I shouldn't be joking. I understand that. But when people get mad and, like, you know, the one kid calling me a neo-Nazi and all that stuff is stupid to me. Because we're just sitting here watching this together. I'm not saying nothing to anyone. I'm not telling anybody what to do. We're all watching this together. So when people get on the screen and they start talking all that stuff about me, it's like, whatever. That stuff cracks me up because it's stupid. I don't push an agenda. I'm not like some of these channels that are telling you to go out there and beat up Antifa, and I'm not Antifa out here telling you to go become communist. But we're just watching this together. So, I don't know. That stuff cracks me up.
Still under oath, Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson.
Just have a few follow-up questions for you, Dr. Tobin. Thank you. In terms of the carbon monoxide testing that you referenced, you would agree with me that the most common technology available in hospital laboratories for analyzing the blood is the multiple wavelength spectrophotometer, also known as the co-oximeter, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Now, in terms of your testimony relevant to the research, you referenced that there were 12 to 20 studies, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
that an increase in pressure on the lungs would increase the narrowing of the hypopharynx.
Not quite.
Okay, can you just say it again?
Yeah, I mean, it is that if you decrease the size of the lungs, that you will get narrowing of the hypopharynx.
And that research would be in physiological journals?
It would be in physiological journals. There's some journals that will be a blend of physiology plus clinical. It will be, but it's primarily going to be in physiological oriented journals.
And those physiological oriented journals would be included within the general search for medical literature?
I mean, if you go into PubMed, it would be included in PubMed, yes.
And you have not produced any of those 12 to 20 articles for the state or I to review?
I mean, I listed several articles in my report of January the 27th. There's several articles in that. I can tell you them if you want to.
Specifically that stand for that proposition?
Regarding the relationship between lung volume and the hypopharynx.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Further.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. You may step down and you are excused.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Blackwell.
Your Honor, the state of Minnesota rests.
Mr. Nilsson, anything further? No, Your Honor. All right, members of the jury, the evidence is now complete for this case. Next step for you is to listen to closing arguments and then retire for deliberations. That'll occur on Monday. The attorneys and I will still be working. We have a few administrative matters and legal matters to take care of. Most importantly, going over the law that I will give you in my instructions. And that takes quite a while. And so we are not going to change our schedule. We're not going to close tomorrow. We're going to close on Monday. And so with that, remember, you will be sequestered. We have some of your questions, and we're going to try and answer as many of those as we can. I think the one thing that you need to know today as you leave is, how much do I pack? If I were you, I would plan for long and hope for short. Basically, it's up to the jury how long you deliberate, how long you need to come to a unanimous decision on any count. And so because that's entirely up to you, whether it's an hour or a week, it's entirely within your province. So that's how I would do it if I were you. We'll also give you some information probably Monday as you retire as to other questions that don't require your immediate attention. And we will also be probably giving you some hints as far as technology. We will be operating under the rules that are currently in place regarding audio and video evidence. And that is specifically that you will be provided with a laptop computer that has all the audio and video, in fact, pretty much all the exhibits in this case, on the computer, and with a large monitor to play them. You will not have to come back into the courtroom each time you want to look at the audio or video, which is the old rules, which involves a lot of back and forth. We're not going to do that. We're just going to give you that computer with the arrangements so that you can view it as you deem appropriate as part of your deliberations. So with that, I wish you a good long weekend, and we will see you Monday morning. We will convene at 9 a.m. for closing arguments and final instructions. Thank you so much. All rise for the jury.
Wow. So I guess that's it. Till Monday. Interesting. Not a whole lot happened today. Well. I just wasn't expecting that. It caught me off guard. Hold on a second.
We are still on the record outside the hearing of the jury. With regard to the charge conference, I think the parties had agreed that we could do this informally off the record in chambers. Is that correct from the state? Mr. Nelson. Okay, Mr. Chauvin, you have the right to be present at all phases of the trial. That would actually include the charge conference. But basically, you'd be watching the lawyers and I wordsmithing the instructions, and I think you already have a copy. You want to be present for that, or are you willing to waive your presence?
I can waive it.
All right. We'd probably put any discussions on the record just to memorialize what we've decided, and you're willing for us to do that without you present, is that correct?
That's right.
Any requests that have already been made by the attorneys as far as proposed instructions, that constitutes a motion for me to give those instructions to the jury. So there's no need for your lawyer to object to anything, because if I don't give anything your lawyer says, that's essentially denying the motion for that proposed instruction. The same thing is true for the state. Any of their proposed instructions memorialize their request. There is no need for an additional motion objecting to whatever I decide is the final instructions. So with that, also, we have all been talking about the appropriate way to deal with questions from the jury. Occasionally, jury questions will arise. I think our preference is that we not move the jury around if we can avoid it, and also that we not have people coming and going from the government center, since you will not be required to stay here at the government center while the deliberation is occurring. Accordingly, our plan is that we do any questions by Zoom. If you recall earlier when I brought back several of the jurors who had been selected to talk about the possible effect that Minneapolis city settlement had, that's how we would do jury questions. In other words, they would be able to see us, we would be able to see them. And when I say we, I mean the parties, yourself. But the jury, because they're anonymous, would not be broadcast to the outside world. And that would be our plan for how to answer questions. Any questions that come to me from the jury, the first step is to talk to all the lawyers, get their input on how I should answer it. Very often it is rereading certain instructions, but in any case, I will talk to all the lawyers, and after talking with them, formulate what my answer is going to be. That will be on the record, but it will be by Zoom. Are you fine with that arrangement, since you don't have to be here? We would want you to be part of the Zoom, so you've got to be subject to getting in front of a computer, basically. Are you fine with that? All right. Anything else as far as before we go into the charge conference?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Then we are off the record until Monday at 9 a.m. Thank you.
All right, hold on a second. All right, well, short day today for the trial. Is your name Emile or is it Emily? Yeah, that's it. I mean, they just shut down the live. Yeah, odd day in court. There you go, Son Hunter. That's I was not expecting that. I thought we were going to be running, if anything, late today, trying to pack in as much information before Monday, but guess that is not the case. It's kind of a waste of a day. I mean, the doctor person didn't add a whole lot to anything, so I don't know, it's kind of a waste of a day. Either way, if I was gonna waste a day, I'd rather waste it with all you hooligans than sitting here by myself. So appreciate all you guys for being here. Hold on, let's turn some music on. So yeah, I appreciate all of you guys for showing up, hanging out for the 87 minutes we were live. Yes, we will be covering riots and protests and activity going on tonight. With us shutting down so early, I could probably catch that stuff while there's still protests before they become riots. With it being later in the week, there's higher chances that there will be more things going on, not just in the Brooklyn Center, but across the country. It's more likely that there will be other protests and stuff going on. I am seeing information that Portland did go out last night, but it wasn't until like 1 a.m. Eastern time. I'm just seeing clips and stuff. I'm not sure that anyone actually went live, but they did go out, so I wonder if they will be live streaming today. It's hard to say. They haven't been covering it. I don't know. I don't know. What they do makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, they want their voices heard, but then they don't live stream any of it. I don't know. I don't know what the point of their situation is. Dawnbreak. I looked up Black Zebra's account. Like I said, they got like 4 or 5 accounts. The one I found, I believe, was the one that we were watching 2 days ago, where she passed out at the end. There's no mention of it, but there is stuff posted all the way up until like last night. So apparently they're okay, but there's no mention of what actually happened to cause her to pass out or anything like that. But then again, I'm not even exactly sure that that's the right Black Zebra account, because there's so many of them. But so far at this time, I haven't found anything else out about Black Zebra. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to shut down this live. We will be going live again later on today for protests and rioting and any kind of other crazy stuff we can find happening. I really appreciate all of you guys showing up, hanging out, even though this was a fluke of a day at trial, a day in court. It's always good to hang out with you hooligans. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you. You guys are what's keeping the channel going, and I would not be able to do it without you. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join the Discord. Big shout out to everyone that's been subscribing. We got like 600 or 700 new subscribers in the last 2 days, which is super awesome because YouTube has been blocking my subscribers. So I went 2 weeks without getting a single subscriber, which really hurts the algorithm as far as the channel is concerned. So, you know, that affects our reach. The more subscribers we can get, the more it tells the algorithm to spread the channel to new viewers, to be able to see what's actually happening in the world, instead of getting their advice from Uncle Larry or getting their news from Facebook or any of that kind of crap. They can come watch it with us live, and we can see what's happening in the world for real. So big shout out to everyone that's been subscribing. Hey, thank you so much, Sheepdog Pleb. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you being here every day. So yeah, big shout out to all you hooligans. You guys are awesome. I will see you guys later today. Yeah, join the Discord and wait for the notification. A few hours or so, I don't know, 5-6 o'clock Eastern time, stuff will probably start moving, and I'll start seeing what's going live. So I will see you guys then. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, That's a wrap.